All right, this is Kareem. We are going live. We're getting ready to go live in just 1 second. And when I say live, I know that we're live here on social media, but we're getting ready to activate our live radio session. We got a great show carved out with you. We got a special guest here, Monte Holland, right? Monte Holland.
Yes, sir.
He's here. Dude is looking smooth, suave, debonair. Looks like he got that extra coat of butter on the head. Clothes is impeccable. So we're going to get started in just a second with him. We're going to talk about, collaborating, across those racial barriers. And Mark has been a great example of this. We talked about on last week one of his strengths that he's beginning to kind of walk into is really building racial bridges through collaboration and partnerships. So we'll talk about another one of those efforts he's doing today with this amazing designer. So we're gonna get started with the show. Let's get going. And we got Johnny. Johnny's in the house. Chandler P is still in the background. He's
coaching
overseeing.
in the background.
He's over the shoulder.
He's coaching.
But we got Johnny B in the
I
place
think we're
to
gonna
be.
have to come up with a nickname for him.
Johnny B.
Rocket or something.
He's Johnny B,
Okay,
man.
B.
Johnny
All right.
Rocket, come on, man. That's like some 1952. No, but
I don't
Johnny
mind
B in the
it.
place to be. We're gonna get going with this interview. Like, tag, and share this. We got to make sure that our we're actually recording live on a public format. I don't know if you can check that out for us, Chandler, or not, or what's going on. But
Make
let's
yourself useful back there, Chandler.
yeah. All right, let's get the show going. This is my computer.
Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online at WSGW.com. Here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on this wonderful, blustery, I don't know if it's summer, spring, winter, or fall, but it's rainy and cold outside, May 18th, 22. By the time that you hear this, hopefully the sun will have emerged again, but it doesn't look like that based upon the forecast that we're seeing moving forward. I am in the studio today with all of the people that I love that make this show possible. We have the new guy at the helm. I'm wondering what's going to happen. We're going to see if he gets through. He is a cherry. He is a virgin. We're breaking his cherry on today. So, John B in the place to be. What's good, John?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man, this is good. I got your name right on the first time. The guy that's over your shoulder, Chandler P, who's now off to greater things, producing news for the news.
The big time.
Yeah, he's going
time.
big time on this, y'all.
Yeah.
But it's okay. He's in the house. We want to thank you for being here, Chandler. And then also to my right, I don't know if it's my right or left on your social media images or whatever it is, but if you're listening to us, he's to my right, is my co-existing, co-producing news. He is the guy who keeps me in check, Mark Bassett. Mark, why don't you give a shout out to everybody?
Hey, everybody. It's a record, I think. I'm here 2 weeks in a row.
2 in a row.
2 weeks
Touchdown.
in a row in the studio.
Hey, okay, so we have a little fun here, but we're gonna talk, and I like to talk about what's hot off the press. We're gonna start off talking about what's hot off the press. I gotta bring up Mark. Yesterday we had what I would consider one of the funnest moments.
Amazing
that we had out there. We had with us the Merry Wives Club. I told you all. Remember, I told y'all, hey, we're dealing with these. What am I gonna do with these old white women that want to come in? But yesterday, I was with this group, the Merry Wives Club, and they are, I think, the youngest. How old was this group?
I think the average age was definitely in the 80s.
Yeah, the average age was 80s, and I was so blessed. Carol, Eunice, you are absolutely amazing. Carol, Mary. What were some of the Suzanne? I will never forget Suzanne.
Not Susan.
Not Susan, but Suzanne. They shared their stories. We learned a little bit about them. Dolores, absolutely. Yep. Dolores was the one that went to call Joanne. Yep. Sorry, Dolores.
Yep.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. All of you that were there. It was an amazing opportunity. So why were we there? These ladies meet. What's going on, Jeff Bulls? He's out there. First guy to stream. So your first one in here. Let's like, tag, and share. get some folks in this comment stream. We were there on yesterday because the women, the Married Wives Club, they said, hey, we want you to come in. And it was just kind of interesting. I said, what do you want me to talk about? They said, hey, we love and we've been listening to the show, and we would love for you to talk about critical race theory. I was like, is there anything that we might be able to start off to wet the palate? But Mark, we went in and we talked about CRT. We talked about, historically where things have been. We shared stories of today. It was a great opportunity. What did you think?
I thought it was a blast. I had a great time. They were very engaged.
Very much so.
I think we need to help them advertise, though, because they're down to 16 members and they really need new membership.
Yeah, so they thought they were at 20, but we helped them. Of course, 16. Mark is going to sit there and say, we're about 20. Of course, Mark sits there while we're there with them, and he begins to say, actually, you're at 16. So we might want to take a few people off the list. We don't know what's happening. Check on Mary. But it was a great occasion. It was so much fun.
I had a blast.
We had a blast. We're going to get right into our conversation. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about this because our special guest today is definitely worth the time that we're going to have. But the other thing I must bring up, we must bring to the platform, is this Buffalo, New York massacre. And so I'm just going to throw it out there on the floor. What are you guys thinking about this? What are your thoughts as we look at I think this is something like the 90-something
That's crazy
massacre or
multiple
mass shooting thing that we've had this year. This is absolutely crazy. What's going on, John B? I want to know
He's
younger
on the spot right off the bat.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Well, something about this one in particular that I think is, I won't say unique, but is different than things that we've heard about in the past, is it is explicitly racially motivated.
Right.
In the guy's writings and all that, he's called out that it is racially motivated. He went to a place where he knew there would be a large concentration of black people. He knew that there would be lax gun laws, and it was very premeditated and very much based on race.
Yeah.
All
right, so if that's the case, and what did I tell you, Mark, when we were sitting there, the sad thing is that when we get there, our illustrious president is going to get there and he's going to make it about gun control. And I believe his comments were, he did mention this is, horrible, this is racist. He denounced racism. I get it. But, this whole idea of that it's about gun control when the Murderers Manifesto says it's about race. I wanted to kill black people. I went to a place where black people were present. I watched them out. This is like a guy, getting ready to go deer hunting. I saw where they're prevalent.
Like this guy in South Carolina, Dylan Roof or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, he's identical. He was an idol. He was one of this guy's idols.
And it's crazy. So they were saying that was one of the key factors that motivated him to do what he's doing. So this is not about gun violence. And I shared with, the group that we were talking on yesterday that, I'm an avid lover of guns. I have guns. I was shooting hand cannons down in Arizona. You can get away with more stuff down there when I was down there. But I love guns. It's been a part of my growing up. I am an avid lover of the Second Amendment. I believe in the right to bear arms, all of that good stuff. I think that if you put a gun on a table, no one ever gets shot in the room until someone picks it up. So guns don't kill people. People kill people. But we do have to deal with the issue of how do we manage some controls? That is an issue, but that's a subtopic. That's a distraction. Jeff Bull says that in this case, insanity is enduring another mass shooting and responding the same way. It's not about gun control. It's about homegrown Anglo-Saxon terrorism. And basically what he's saying is that this is a domestic terrorism. But he's saying that, I was sharing with the women yesterday, which was an interesting place to have a conversation about. It was. Because they were like, oh, we need to do something about the guns. That's you, Carol. I'll say Carol because I know Carol the best. That was Carol, my impersonation for Carol Eunice. But it's not about those things. This is about the fact that America has a race problem.
I mean, because if he didn't have a gun, he would have found another way to do this.
A bomb,
a car.
These people, their weapon of choice happens to be
easy.
Guns. Go ahead, John.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting that you say that, Mark, because a lot of parallels have been drawn between this explicitly racially motivated killing and the one at the parade in Wisconsin last year. Okay. That was a black man using a car to plow through people, and that one was also explicitly racially motivated.
Absolutely.
But it's just, I think that that's absolutely correct, is that this is about race. This is not about guns. This is not about the means
No.
of killing people. That some of these, I won't say all of them, but some of these are about other things.
Yeah, no, and I don't think this is. I mean, Jeff brought up the issue of insanity. This is not about, this guy is very well thought out. He took time to study, I will say, his prey. The thing that gets me is that, as I look at the victims, some of these victims have ties to Mid-Michigan. You're not just killing, young boys, and it's sad because we're seeing young Black men being killed in crazy situations. Now we're seeing, something like, why would you target a senior citizen? And most of these individuals were seniors. And so he went in, checked the exits. He had been studying them since November, and this is just horrific. And so our nation has to come to a reckoning that there are some needs for some real conversations that need to be had. They're not about gun violence. And everything isn't about the police officers, but those police officers and what happens with police officers also is that they're a part of a system of hate that exists. And I'm not saying all police officers, I'm not even going to defend that because y'all know who I am. If you don't know me by now, we'll be offended, and I guess we'll deal with it later. But there's a system of hate in America that we have to deal with, that we cannot push under the carpet. We can't push it under the rug, sing a Kumbaya song. And as I said on last week, and I said probably 5 times then, and I said on yesterday, in the words of Angela Davis, that in a racist society, it is not enough just to be against racism. You have to be anti-racist. Yeah. And so that means that you have to begin to do things that are important for us to make change happen. So we're going to move forward. We're going to bring more of that, I'm sure, as that comes forward. I want us to bring into the studio this wonderful guy. I was expecting Mark to really be able to have that smooth, debonair voice. And today
I'm starting to lose my
old
voice.
man Winters kicking him in the butt by bringing, he's sounding a little
gruff. Yeah.
This is explicitly why CRT should be taught. You're absolutely right. One of the things, since he brings that up, and as we bring Monty into the studio, I always try to tell people that CRT, what it says is basically you can't whitewash history. That's what CRT says. Please don't whitewash history, because if you do so, it's no longer history, especially here in America. So it's important, if we're going to talk about history, that we do so from a perspective of sharing all of history. And this was a highly academic conversation that was for scholars and folks who wanted to have additional information. As I did, I studied the Black experience and the African experience and the road from Africa to the U.S., the middle passages of the slave trade when I went to Michigan State as my extracurricular activities and studies. This is not something that we're trying to teach in elementary schools. However, I think that if we teach in elementary schools, if there's 1 ounce of history, it should be all of history. The only name that we should know from Black America should not be Martin Luther King. There were other people who did some amazing things. Let's bring Monty Holland.
Move on to something a little lighter.
Yes, we're going to move to something a little lighter for today. We always going to bring the Black back. No, but we go. I know people are probably like, who is this dude? But one of the things that we were talking on last week was the importance of how do we begin to chip away at what we see as what I consider one of the biggest issues in America, and that is our war on race, this racial hate. And one of the things, and Mark, how we came together because you had a desire to do something. And one of the things that you brought to my attention, you said, Kareem, I really want to work with young Black entrepreneurs and see how I can connect and see how I can position, things and partner with them and maybe bring them to market or whatever it is that they need. How can I get involved? And that's one of the ways that you thought to do so. And so I want to turn this over to you and introduce this young debonair designer who is waiting on the other line. And so go ahead, Mark.
So with us tonight is a person I've known. When did we first meet, Monty? In 2019, was it? Probably.
You got to introduce him first.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Let me show you how
I'm not a professional host.
You've got to introduce him first, and then you start the small talk. Go ahead.
Sorry. With us tonight is Monty Holland, who is, what's your title, Monty? Director, CEO, president, and chief designer for Teon Collection. I think he's a jack of all trades. All of them. He's a really amazing guy. First and foremost, he's a really talented designer for both men's and women's clothing, but right now he's focused primarily on men's, but he's looking to branch out. and he's launched his collection a few years ago under his own label, and is now in. What are some of the stores you're in right now, Monty?
We're in Macy's, Men's Warehouse, Nordstrom's Rack, Burlington, Saks Off Fifth, K&G, Moore's in Canada.
Wait a minute. Which ones are you not in? Maybe a better question.
And then we're in, scores and scores of specialty stores across the country, smaller stores.
Yeah. So with us tonight is Monty, and as Kareem talked about, we had what was our guest last week? Dr.
Dr. Lacreta Clark, Mark's favorite of all. Yeah, Dr. Clark.
Where we had a really interesting discussion. There were some things we didn't agree on, I think, but there was definitely a few issues that we agreed on.
She brought the heat.
Which was the way it's easy to, like, when you don't know a certain group of people, to have stereotypes or to think certain things. And that the best way to break those down is to get to know people. Because once you start to get to know people, you understand that they're really not much different than you. And you have far more things in common than you have differences. And I thought,
and that creates a beginning point.
It becomes a beginning point to build a relationship.
We got to move past that inch. That absolutely. So we got to move past there and begin to do something.
Right.
So, yep.
And so, Kareem and I is a perfect example of that. A mutual friend introduced us, and from that blossomed this relationship. A lady that Monty and I both know, Natalie Hazen, who great lady in Midland. She's got a couple companies, Gingras Global, that performs financial services for small companies like Monty's, but also has a venture capital fund that supports startup businesses that have a focus on making an impact in the community. And she introduced me to a few of her clients, but the last of the day, the biggest, most important was Monty. And I think she knew that
Monty, you're the biggest, most important. I just want you to know that, okay?
She knew I had a soft spot for fashion. And tonight I actually put on one of Monty's shirts. I have 2 tuxes, which always get compliments, 4 suits, a handful of shirts. And from there, I met Monty. He set up his stuff. And I think I was just super impressed, first and foremost, with his designs and his skills, but really a great guy, super passionate. And from there, we built a relationship. I've invested in Monty to help him build his business. Other than the money, he's done everything.
But let's be clear.
Yep.
Monty, you had a presence. I mean, come on, this ain't
he had
your
a
first
pre-existing presence.
This is not your first go round the rodeo.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is kind of get to, Monty, maybe you can tell us a little bit. Let's start all the way back. Like, how did a little bit about
all the way back?
Where are you from? Where you got started, and how you kind of got into fashion.
Who is Monty Holland?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, boy, you guys know how to kick off a show, huh? You guys go deep, serious right from the start. I can appreciate that. So I appreciate that. To that, before I jump into my background and my story, like I said, I do appreciate how you guys addressed that situation that happened here. It's ugly. It's a disease, and someone said that racism is America's disease, and until we do something about that disease, we'll have these types of things happen. And what I mean by do something is have real, truthful, transparent conversations, courageous conversations, if you will, that can get to the real crust of it. By way of education, you can maybe help it. By way of mental health, you can help it. By way of talking about the socioeconomic, wealth gap, those types of things I think will help us to better, get our arms and our minds wrapped around those types of evil things that take place in this wonderful country that I served in the United States Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. So I'll lighten it back up and get into this thing called Tayon. So my name is actually Monty Tayon Holland.
Okay.
And born and raised Detroit, Michigan, single mother, 3 sisters. And I always had this, passion for fashion. And I really, woke up thinking about it, went to bed thinking about it. And I never knew what to do with it.
Even from how really as a young child?
As a young child. I can remember, 6, 7 years old, watching my mom, get dressed to go out. And I'm thinking, wow, that's a nice outfit, or comparing what she wore to my aunts or my cousins that would maybe be going out with her. Like that's nice, but she could have probably put that with this or that with that. And some of the men that I knew, I remember as a young man, early teens, looking at their outfits and kind of evaluating how I could have maybe tweaked it or improved it. So as I got a little older and went to high school, I became an athlete, a pretty good athlete. And my coaches, who did not work inside the school, owned, I know now that I'm older, they were insurance men. They had an insurance agency. And they would come in with suits and trench coats and French cuffs, and they just looked really, really dapper. And I never forget saying to myself, I don't know what they do, but I want to do something in that area that would allow me to dress that way. So when I graduated, I went to the Marine Corps, and I was shipped overseas to Asia. So I spent time on Mount Fuji, Iwakuni, Okinawa, Korea. And in some of these places, we had the opportunity when we had time off to go to the mainland and shop. And they had these little pop-up shops on either side of the road that you can have anything you can imagine made. Shirts,
tailor-made. It's amazing.
Shoes, anything. Yeah. They still do it today. Back then, the dollar was so strong, you can do anything you wanted for little to nothing.
Yep.
So I was making all these things that I had in my head, not realizing that I was designing because I couldn't draw or sew. But I could explain what I wanted. And I really had a knack for taking a fabric, remembering a fabric, even if I saw it months and months before, and matching it up to something that I thought it would tie in well together with. So I did all these beautiful things, I thought, and I started to wear them. And I got a lot of feedback from people saying, hey, where'd you get that? How can I get one? So I would use my contacts, even when I get back stateside, to have things made for people. So I became known as the guy, the custom guy. So I did that, not really understanding business, but I was actually making things for people and, having them delivered.
Did you have any influences, like designer influences, like designers you really admired, or?
I have some influences that I'm inspired by now, but back then I got to tell you, I didn't know even how to research. We grew up, in what they call the hood, Mark, the hood. Southwest Detroit, Southwest Detroit, and I tell people they drive through my area that I grew up in, don't even stop at the lights, especially if it's a woman and it's dark. Just keep it moving. Look both ways, keep it moving. It was that bad.
Yeah.
But I didn't have anybody that I could draw from other than the people that I knew and what was in television and what I had in my head. So, Motown, when I would see things on television, the Renaissance era, when I would see things in books that we were learning from, little things. And then the people that I knew. Well, once I got out of the Marine Corps, I got my undergrad and grad degrees to be a teacher, because that's really all I, knew I wanted to I was passionate about, other than fashion, was education. So I became a teacher thinking I was going to be a principal. Well, after a few years, I realized I love young people and I love education, but they didn't pay quite what I expected.
You had higher aspirations than that.
That's right. So I left and I went to corporate America, landed at Anheuser-Busch for a couple of years. And then a recruiter reached out to me and said, hey, we think your background would make for a great pharmaceutical sales rep. I said, what does that mean? She said, we think because you're an athlete, you have a master's degree, and you're a United States Marine Corps vet, you could be a great pharmaceutical rep. I said, let's try it. I interviewed, they hired me. Within a year, I was promoted, and I was the #1 sales rep with Viagra in the country when we launched it.
So were you working with Pfizer?
I was a Pfizer pharmaceutical sales
So
rep.
that's where your connection with Chris came in, local pastor Chris Pryor.
Chris and I worked together.
Yeah. Okay. Now I understand the connection.
Chris and I worked together. I started before Chris, and I had that portfolio that was phenomenal. I had all $1 billion drugs: Norvasc, Lipitor, Zithromax, Viagra, and all $1 billion babies, and we were doing very well.
The money makers. All
haymakers. So I started to get back into this fashion thing, making more things for myself, making more things for other people. So I decided to go to this trade show I've been hearing about. It's a trade show in Las Vegas called the Magic Show. It's where all of the fashion industry converges in one place at one time. the fashion models, the people displaying product, the merchandisers, the stores that want to come and buy, the manufacturers that want to sell to those stores. So I go to this show with a buddy of mine who owned the store. We walk the show. I'm wearing the things that I would make for myself. Got a lot of feedback. And I went again 6 months later. Same
So you
feedback.
just went as a private citizen, not in the industry, just checking it out.
Just a private citizen walking the show with a guy who owned the store that was a friend of mine. And we're getting a lot of feedback. I'm watching him buy. I'm benchmarking what's hot, how I can maybe how I should be thinking of what I should be making down the road and how my things measured up, quite frankly. And I'm thinking to myself, I could do this, without really knowing I could. So I decided on that third shot a year later to get a booth. I worked at Pfizer. I made a pretty good living. I got a booth, the smallest booth you can get, a 10 by 10 saw-cloth booth. We get this booth. I took 4 of my buddies who could fit my suits. So I gave them 3 suits apiece. I took 15 to put on my rolling rack. We took a makeshift flyer and we went to the show. It's a 4-day show. And we set up 15 minutes. We got our booth at the last minute, and it's pretty expensive. That booth was $10,000.
Yeah, they're not playing with those booths at all. Well, Monty, we're going to have to take a quick break real quick. But when you come back, I've been to the Magic Show. I want you to share and detail your experience there, and we'll talk about how you and Mark came together. We're going to take a quick break. Stay, don't go away. We'll be back with more United Shades of Gray.
United Shades of Gray will continue on WSGW.
To us out there in social media land, let's like, tag, and share. I recognize it, yet still again, we were showing up as private, and so we have now gone public with our stream. So some of you guys, you may want to go back and watch the beginning. If not, hey, catch the rest of the show. We'll be right back to continue our conversation with Monty Holland. Would you say that?
I was going to say, I haven't been to the Magic.
Oh, I think I lost you guys.
Can you hear me? He's gone.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Monty?
I can hear you, can't see you. There you go. Gotcha.
That's fine. No, Marco saying he had never been to the Magic Show. I was like, man, I think anybody should just go just to see what it is. It's crazy, but
Yes.
working with the NBA moms, they all want to start a boutique store. They want to start or the wives, they want to start an online boutique. So they would go out there and pick up, what they were going to have in their show or their online store.
Wow.
It was really a crazy experience.
That's crazy.
Great.
I worked with the NBA Wives Association for about 8 years doing the fashion show at the All-Star Games, NBA.
Wait a minute. Who was heading the association when you were working with them?
Deborah Williams.
Okay.
Herb Williams' wife. Herb Williams' wife.
Yeah. Okay. Well, man, wait a minute. Did you put on a fashion show for them?
That would be me every year.
Wow. I was there. I remember going. Wow.
Which one?
Trying to think which one.
Houston. I did Houston, LA, Chicago, somewhere else. I did a few of them.
It was Los Angeles.
Boom.
Because they had a prayer breakfast and a fashion show.
There you go. I did all
There
those.
you go. Yeah, Mama Wade, Dwayne Wade's mom, had invited me out to that event. But we're gonna get back to. They're telling me like, can we get the show going? Listen, you work for us, John. We the man. Okay, let's get this together around here. Now go ahead. We good.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
Hey, this is Kareem Bowen, and we're back with United Shades of Gray, conversations on race in America. You got to get involved with this conversation. Like, tag, and share this. For those of you who are listening on the radio, or maybe you're listening to us via social media, and you're getting this live vibe, if you like what you hear, and then maybe you came in late, you can always catch this show. The show will air in its full entirety on Sundays at 7 p.m. right here on WSGW on 100.5 FM and 790 AM. All right, I got it. I was going to say, correct me if I get it wrong. But John, he's a new guy. He's a new producer. We're going to get a camera for him so we can show him online as well. You guys are always saying, where's Chandler? But John is the new guy. Chandler has gone off. He's gone with the wind. Go with Jesus. Go with God. He's doing greater, better things. But we're back here. Mark is interviewing. We're taking some conversation. He's trying. He's doing a good job. Mark, good job. And I'm giving him the reins, and we're showing him how to do this thing. But we have Monty Holland on the other side, and we were talking about the magic show. So, Monty, why don't you come back in and just kind of start? You went to the magic show on your next go round. You said, hey, we're going to get this booth, this 10 by 10 for 10 G's, which ain't no joke. So now you got to put your short black pants, them glitter socks, and them black shoes because it's showtime, right? We got to make something happen. Go ahead, Monty.
Showtime. Yeah, exactly. So we go to this show, and I say the show was 10. The booth was 10,000, but there's flight, there's hotels, there's just dredge, there's all these things that I didn't even anticipate, and that bill just kept ticking up. So I'm wondering how in the heck are we going to, do at this show, because I had no idea. I had never sold anything wholesale. Well, the day we were setting up, right down the hall from us was a gentleman by the name of Steve Harvey setting up. He wasn't setting up the booth, but they were setting his booth up. And his booth was probably half the size of this warehouse I'm sitting in right now. He probably had
the comedian Steve Harvey with the wide leg.
Harvey, the comedian, yeah.
I said the wide leg collection. I love his suits. But go ahead.
They had just done the Kings of Comedy, so he was super hot. And they had 50 mannequins, and it had a second story in it, wood grain. It was beautiful. So I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? Well, we leave because it took us all of 15 minutes to set up. Next day we come back and it's showtime. Time for the actual customers to come in. Well, to my surprise, we had stores coming in from the beginning of the show and they were writing orders. Now, remember this, because this is key. I didn't know how to price the product wholesale. I didn't have a real idea of what to charge. All I knew is what it cost me. So anyway, we're writing orders from all these different places. Guys are trying things on, and these stores are they seem to be pretty excited about what we were doing. Well, 2-3 hours into the show, one of my guys comes back because their job was to walk around with the suits on, hand out these flyers to draw business back to the booth. He comes back and he has all this excitement in his eyes. He says, Monty, Steve Harvey just stopped me and he wants to meet you. And as he was telling me this, Steve Harvey's walking towards my booth, maybe 100 feet away. And he's walking towards my booth with his entourage and cameras behind him. And, he gets to my booth and stops all my traffic. And he says, listen, I just licensed my name to these gentlemen from New York. And, it's doing pretty good. But I wanted my line to be more along the lines of what you did. So maybe at the end of the show, you can come down to the booth. I introduce you to those guys. We can figure out how we could collaborate because, you got something here. And I'm thinking, okay, between me, you, Mark, and the people that's listening, I didn't know what licensing meant back then. I had no idea, but I played it off.
All right, go ahead.
So I played it off, and the show ends. We pack up in 15, 20 minutes, and we're leaving the show, excited. And as we walk past his booth, I didn't know if he was serious or not. I look inside their booth. They were literally celebrating, Kareem. They were celebrating, popping bottles of champagne, drinking it, playing music. And as they were packing up, I'm thinking, well, they probably weren't serious. I'll just let them continue with their celebration. Well, Steve was at a table in my eye shot with a gentleman talking. The gentleman was eating. Steve was talking to him. I decided to walk by. He notices I'm going to walk past, and he whistles for me to come back. I come back. He says, come back. I want you to meet this guy. I sit at the table, and across from me is Steve and this gentleman. He's eating, and there's two gentlemen standing behind me as close as these two mannequins are. So Steve introduces me. His name was Doug Kaplan. Never forget. And he says, I want you to meet this guy. He had a great show. He has some hot stuff. I think you should, talk to him, Doug. Doug is eating. These two gentlemen behind me, before Doug could say a word, the one guy, George D. Mosquito, says to the other guy, Michael Schwartz, I don't know why we're talking to this guy. We just had the best show we've ever had in 30 years. He's not a celebrity. We don't know who he is. And this Steve thing is going to be huge. As he says this, Doug says to me, I hear you had a good show. How'd you do? I pause and wait till he answers him. So Mike responds to him and says, wow, so how did we do? He says, I think we did 1.2. So I'm thinking to myself, in my Detroit public school education, he can't possibly mean 1.2 billion. He has to mean 1.2 million. So I know what we just did. So I let him respond. And then I say to him, I think we did $1 million. Now, remember, I said he was eating. He almost choked. He coughed. He sits his food down and says, you think you did $1 million? I said, yeah, I think we did. So now these two guys are right over my shoulder now listening. Steve faces Doug, starts doing his comedian thing. I told you, he a bad boy. You need to be talking to him. So he's doing his comedian thing. And Doug is in disbelief. And he says, you mind if I see your paper, my purchase orders? I say, sure. I pull my purchase orders out. I give them to him. He starts to flip through. He notices a couple of things. One, we sold the same accounts that he sold. Two, in many cases, we sold them more product than they had sold them. And then three, remember I told you I didn't know how to price it. They were launching the Steve Harvey brand at $135, two-piece jacket pant, three-piece $145 jacket vest pant, which then means the store buys it $145. They have to sell it $375, $450-ish.
Right.
For a Keystone markup. Well, I was selling wholesale, in many cases, $500. I had a $375 piece. I had another piece that I think was $575 wholesale. So he says to me, there's no way they would pay for this. That would mean they would have to sell it at Versace-esque, Gucci types of price points.
Yep.
So I say, they seem pretty excited when they were buying it. So I don't know. I take them back. He says to me, let's just revisit this in a week or so when we let this settle in. We'll fly you to New York and we'll see what this means. So a week later, they fly me to New York and he had talked to some of the accounts. They said, yes, they wanted it. And he says, how about this? We can't ship this because they were probably more interested in the designs versus the fabrics. And he was right. So the next show, you come back to us and you're in the booth with us. Come back with us and you're in the booth with us and we'll see if it's real. 6 months later, I'm in the booth with them with this much space, less than 10 feet. And those same stores saw me and said, hey, we wanted that stuff. And we rewrote it. We're at that same table at the end of the show. How'd you do? How'd you do? They did 1.3. We did 1.2. And that's how I got into the industry.
So you've been in the industry for a while. You were, I think, licensing primarily, and then you decided to go a different path. Tell us a little bit about what happened and why you decided to go a different way.
So now I'm in the industry, and these guys were primarily specialty store licensees. They had relationship with the smaller guys, but I mean, we were shipping 500 of those guys. I've shipped over 2,500 specialty stores over the years. And some of these guys are pretty big. They have multiple stores. So we're shipping these guys, doing millions. And, these guys are let's just say they weren't operating above board. And, they were stealing. So we find out. And then I decide to leave because, I start to learn more about the business, realizing I'm not really making what I should be making. I go to a different licensee. They do the same thing. Another one do the same thing. Finally, years later, I run into a gentleman by the name of Ronnie Wurzberger, and he said he ran Peerless Clothing, the largest manufacturer of tailored clothing in the country. They have Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein, Tommy Hilfiger, Kenneth Cole, you name it, they have it. And he says, hey, we want to diversify our portfolio, and in doing so, diversify the portfolio of the big box stores. At that same time, right around the same time, I was going to a Macy's workshop for diverse companies for a week. Around that same time, I had met Natalie, who introduced me to you, and all these things were kind of happening at the same time. Diversity and inclusion was a hot topic, and people were becoming more serious about supporting diverse companies. And all those things just kind of aligned at the same time. And that's how I got with Peerless, got with Macy's, and aligned with you at the same time. And all those things kind of lined up. So we have different fights now, but they're with the big guys.
Better fights.
Much better fights.
Yeah.
So Monty, one of the questions that I would have to ask is, now you're in these stores, you're doing what's out there. You talked about the bigger fights. Do you still find it a struggle, or do you still find roadblocks to your forward pathway? And if so, what do they look like?
That's an outstanding question. And here's why. It's not enough to be in those stores, because there are systemic barriers for, people that look like me and you. There just are. Like I said, racism is the disease of America. And what may be a systemic barrier for us may be a blind spot for
Absolutely.
people who have been doing things for a long time the same way. So let me give you a very real fight, I have a licensee that is technically working for me to grow this brand. I'm a new, exciting brand within their portfolio. We delivered to the number one retailer in the country, Macy's, and it's selling like hotcakes. Selling like, if it were apple to apples, we'd be as big as Ralph Lauren. But we're selling at a higher sell through weekly than they were when we first hit the stores, the first couple of months or so. So I go back to my licensee and say, okay, look, the stuff is selling. We're doing great. Let's increase our distribution, increase our swatch count. Let's do what the numbers say we should do. Well, they come back and say, well, we can't do that because we don't want to be, Debbie Downers, but it could very well be that everything is selling right now because the industry's in a very unique position and everything's selling now. They can't get enough product on the floor because the industry has bounced back in such a great way. So it could be a situation where a guy goes to the store, he wants a black 2-button traditional suit. They don't have it, then they buy your product. So I'm thinking, oh God. I said, okay, that's a very real.
You see what Monty's wearing? Someone looking for a black 2-button suit isn't going to wear Monty's stuff. So.
Exactly. So I have to tell them. So I say, okay, listen, I understand that's a real thing. Guy needs a car. He goes to a car dealership. They don't have his car. I still need a car. So he then buys another car. My guy doesn't do that. My guy goes to Macy's, sees this, says that's hot. I want to buy it, buys it, gets compliments, comes back a couple of weeks later, get another one. That's why our sell-throughs are so high. So
by the way, anytime I wear Monty's stuff, the ladies give me lots of compliments, gentlemen. Lots of compliments. So go ahead, Monty.
Monty has a Mark looking like he went to church at a black church on Easter Sunday. But no, Monty, I'm going to tell you, I did have an opportunity to see your fashion show, and I was really impressed. It's funny. We always say that clothes don't make the man, but and I'll tell you, if I could wear anything every day, it would be jeans and a t-shirt. But when you have special occasions where you really need to step out nicely, you made some of the ugliest men that I've known from Saginaw look like they should be, Ralph Lauren models.
Jimmy Green looked pretty good.
Or tie-out. Yeah. I mean, come on. If you can take Jimmy and turn him into a runway model, man. This is magic. This is not clothing and fashion you're doing. You are creating magic with the needle and thread. So it's absolutely amazing in terms of what you're doing. And it's really cool. It's funny. I had a conversation, and I think I may have mentioned this to you before, with a young lady by the name of Tiffany Ellersy. Do you know Tiffany Ellersy? She worked with the Sean John brand when he was going into the Sean John collection and trying to do some of the things that you're doing. And she was saying that it was so difficult to get companies to even buy into the idea that men like yourself, gentlemen of color, could even begin to understand what fashion, especially on dress clothing and clothing.
Yeah. What I really like about Monty's stuff is, again, and how do I say this delicately? White dudes have a certain way of dressing, and then, black gentlemen, a lot of them, 4-button suits, big white. But what I love about Monty's stuff is
that's the old school.
I still see that. But anyway, what I love about Monty's stuff is everybody can wear it. I'm a 61-year-old white dude, conservative white dude that loves putting on Monty's stuff, and I think it looks great on me. And that's what I love about Monty's stuff. It's so versatile, and it complements anybody and everybody that puts it on. So I
want to address that. So here's the thing, because what you were saying, Kareem, and what Mark's saying, it ties together. Systemic barriers. So you have these companies, let's call them heritage brands. You have these heritage brands that have been doing this 100 years. Ralph Lauren did $14 billion last year. All right. And then you have Calvin and all these other ones. So they don't want to give up, market share. One. The licensees don't want to give up their market share because they have minimums that they have to abide by. Two, those pieces that you talk about, Mark, that you say the black guys were wearing, those were not the things that the truly fashionable black guy was wearing. Those were guys who was ostentatious and guys who only bought things that were on the floor. They didn't know any better. Guys like me didn't design it.
Yep.
Okay. So my job was to go bring a product to the market that wasn't ostentatious, those pink and purple and loud Barney suits. We brought a product to market. I'm a black man that just happens to own a fashion line. Okay. So it's not a black company. So we made Tom Ford does exactly what I do. Okay, with the embellishments, with the different characteristics.
You know who Tom Ford is?
I do. You have to.
I know who
understand,
Tom Ford is, but
Mark, you got to understand that I as Monty am a world traveled black man. So we do understand. I understand who Tom Ford is.
So
Okay.
and take it even further, Calvin Klein, Ralph Lauren, they do some of the same types of things.
They
So I don't.
you got to go to
blame
the
those
blue
guys
label for. You got to go to the blue label for Ralph Lauren to get that, though.
for sure. But I sell it at an affordable price point.
Yes, you
I would
do.
challenge anybody to take a Tayon suit, put it next to his purple or blue label, and see if there's a big gap. But I want to get back to what we were saying. The gap is the access to capital, and then given the opportunity to actually succeed. What I mean by that is my sales rep that works for Peerless is not a big believer in fashion. They call my genre in tailored clothing fashion. It's not. It's a suit collection that is different from what you're typically seeing on the rack. And Macy's now understands that customer exists because they're having great sell through. So you have a customer that wants it, Macy's. I have a licensee that can't quite understand it because they've never dealt with anybody like me. And then a sales rep that makes his money off blue and black Ralph Lauren, Calvin Klein replenishment suits. So he's fighting it. And I'm saying, no, buddy, listen, it's not trying to fix something that's not broken. It's trying to put the icing on it. It's trying to improve it. And that is the problem or one of the problems that we have, trying to get people with blinders on to understand, or blind spots to understand that it's just improving it. If you open your eyes and are more acceptable to something that's a little bit different from what you're accustomed to.
Because a lot of your stuff is an and. It's like I have a standard black, navy blue and an and. So it doesn't have to be or.
But I think what you're saying, and I'm going to say it this way, there are certain things that we consider, I'll say it this way. Coming from the black community, you had your church suit that you could wear, and then you had your business suit that you could wear. And most of the things that we would wear on a Sunday would be a bit more showy, a bit more colorful. I think a bit more fashion forward than what we would traditionally wear in an office place. But just like hip hop music that they fought for so long, this ain't music, this ain't music, this ain't music. It has now become the standard for music. It is
mainstream
the music. And what you're saying is that just because you're in business and how we do business and what business looks like and what business attire looks like is undergoing that same metamorphosis that we saw in music, where the things that black culture like, and let's be honest, black culture it always has blazed a trail. It has gone from trendy to the standard. It has made a huge difference and has always met its mark. So when I look at what you're doing, Monty, I see you taking, it's almost like you're taking the stuff that we learned at home. They certain things we did at home in the community and we didn't let everybody know about. It's when they came up with what's the guy who sang Hound Dog? You ain't nothing but a hound
Elvis?
dog. Elvis Presley. See, I don't deal with Elvis. But anyway, Elvis went to the black community. He saw them doing, the shake, and they were doing this move. He then took those things to mainstream and they received those things. And now those things are prevalent and become the standard. You're doing the same thing. What you're wearing, Monty, I mean, come on, it's impeccable.
I would wear that to work. But I wore that to work.
Mark, you a little bit different than most brothers your color now. But what you're doing are things that I've seen. I think your craftsmanship is amazing. But when I go to a church or a function, probably within the past 10 years, I've seen that. But you have kind of taken it to another level to where, hey, this can be business casual. This can be, on a main event. This is after 6. And so now I see you kind of like you being fashion forward, and the standards or the things that have been every day, of course, they don't want to make space for what's new and what's popping.
It's a paradigm shift. And by the way, I have on jeans with this jacket because you can go all the way from dress to casual.
We gotta
Dress
see
it
it.
up
You
or-
gotta let us see it. Come on,
Dress
let
it
us
up
see
or
And
dress
that's the
it down.
idea.
Yeah,
Straight
there
up
you go.
jeans.
Looking sharp. Hey, we
Straight up
got like
jeans.
we got 3.5 minutes left, Monty. I want to ask you one, maybe two more questions. I'd actually like to get two in, so let's keep them short. You have a vision about House of Tayon, and we're not going to get there yet, but I think we're going to get the first step. Maybe you can talk like a minute or a minute and a half about your vision about House of Tayon and hopefully what we're going to get in the short term.
Okay, so House of Tayon is my ultimate vision, and ultimately, I love to have 5 or 6 of these strategically placed around the country, and it basically stands for it's hot, HOT, House of Tayon, and it's an experience, meaning a guy can come there, a guy who's a very fashion forward guy like Mark, and a guy who says he wants to wear jeans and a shirt like yourself. So he comes there, and because we have this business model where we're already shipping to big box stores, we're already selling wholesale to specialty guys, we're not held hostage to the foot traffic that a traditional specialty store is held to. So we'll have this beautiful place, very much like the Ralph Lauren house in Chicago and New York. But it's beautifully laid out. It's marble, beautiful flooring, beautiful paintings. And then it's decked out with maybe 100 of these mannequins, right? A guy can come in, the TVs are playing, the music is playing, a cool genre of music.
Champagne.
We may have a little champagne or wine, depending on how much the insurance goes up. But then this guy can get he can get a shave, he can get his hair cut, he can get his nails done, get his car wash, shoe shine, and guess how much I'm going to charge him, Kareem?
What's that?
Nothing. Mark and I'll talk about this, but I won't charge him anything. But guess what's going to happen? When he does want to shop, we're going to roll that rack in, give him such a VIP experience that when he does shop, he's going to have to come to me. When he does want to ball out of control and show, his lady how he really moves, he's going to come to me. And the flip side of this, we're going to do the same thing for ladies. It's going to be an experience that doesn't really exist in the country. And then we'll do black tie events. We'll do VIP dinners. We'll do all types of things in the spot with fashion being the anchor and being around it. And it'll just be someplace that you just want to come and visit when you land here in Detroit. Where's this House of Tayon? I have to see it.
Man, I'm going to tell you, so you're talking about a very unique experience from these flagship stores that you're going to be pushing. I can't wait to have it happen. I'm going to tell you, the next time we come in here, we're going to even have these young white guys in here. They're not going to be in here with these hoodies on. We're going to be Tayon.com because that's where they can find you, right? Tayon.
That's it, Tayon.com. Yep.
Spell that Tayon.com.
Correct. That's correct.
All right. It's scrolling for those of you watching via social media. I want to say it for those who are listening audibly so that they would get that. But we're going to be in here. We're going to be dressed to impress because I believe that you can do a lot with fashion with a purpose. I mean, and what you're saying is you're taking the limits off what you're able to do. And, when you look good, you act good, everything begins to fall in place.
Saying, look good, feel good, be good.
Okay, I like that. Monty, we want to thank you for this opportunity. This will not be the last time we connect. I think we're
going to go to his grand opening. That's what we're going to do.
There's a lot of synergy between what you're doing and people that I know that are out there. And I would love to connect you guys and just kind of take the roof off. This is absolutely amazing. Thank you, Mark, for bringing us in. And everyone that's listening, grace and peace.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you guys that are listening in the social media stream that are catching this. Make sure that you go and check out the Tayon collection. You see it scrolling at the bottom of the screen. That's TAYION.com. Monty Holland is the designer. Mark Bassett is the man about town who is bringing this amazing man to our community. And I think that we're going to see you all over the place, Tayon. You're doing amazing things. Someone's asking, Tayon, where's the Tayon collection located? Where are you located? Tell them everywhere you at, Monty. Do it one more time. Impress the world.
So we're located in Macy's, Men's Warehouse, Nordstrom's Rack, Saks Off 5th, Burlington, and then if you happen to be in Canada, the Moore stores in Canada. We have about 100 or so specialty stores around the country, so you can find us in specialty stores. The closest one, I don't know where you're located, but we have a few stores in Detroit that you can get to, Broadway, City Warehouse, those types of guys, you can buy it. But we'll be having ladies in the next 6 months. You can call or email us at tayon.com, or you can email me personally, monty@tayon.com, and we can take care of you. You know, I do want to say this before we go, though.
Go ahead.
I do want to say this. The gentleman that's sitting next to you, you know, he's a very humble guy, but I just want people to know it takes people like Mark that are willing to have those tough conversations and willing to actually walk the walk, you know, to get change, to bring about change. Because without people like Mark and Natalie that actually want to get involved, one of my taglines is get involved, you know, we'll stay spinning our wheels. So I do want to just give him his flowers while he's sitting right here on this show.
Thank you. I appreciate that much, Monty. Very much.
Is this where Monty, where did you go to church growing up?
Oh, I went to a couple of churches, but right now I go to Greater Mount Tabor. I mean,
Okay,
Pastor
so
Ruggs.
when they would say give him the flowers, that's when give me my flowers.
Well, we
go ahead.
still got Monty. One of the things I really love about Monty is he gives back to the community. He's always saying, "Give." Maybe you could tell the people still online here, Monty, a little bit. You know, you really came up the hard way. You worked hard. You came from a tough neighborhood.
Mary said Mark is fly.
Yeah.
He's super fly for
Super
a white
fly.
guy.
Yeah. But one of the things I really like Monty is he's doing everything in his company, but he still finds time to give back. Maybe you could talk a little bit about some of the things you're working on, Monty.
So one of the things that I'm as passionate about as fashion is, you know, like I said, education and then scholarships. So I'm big on working with young men who are athletes that weren't heavily recruited, working them out, training them, mentoring them, and getting them scholarships. And to date, we have 66 scholarships, full-ride scholarships that we've gotten around the country. And many of them have matriculated, come back home, and they still, you know, work with me. And I still.
Some of them are your models. They're good models, some of these guys.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, yeah.
I was gonna say these cats look like ballers, so they were. They probably
most
were.
of them were hoopers. Yep.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Well, Monty, it's really cool. And have you given an official name to what you do in terms of your philanthropic work, your community work?
You know what? I haven't. I just do it, and I stayed in the background. But we are going to start the Tayon Foundation.
Okay.
We're going to start the Tayon Foundation and start doing, you know, things a little bit more out in the open. This was just a passion of mine, and I just loved it. And I heard Magic Johnson say he had 1,000 scholarships one time, and I was like, wow, I want to get 1,000 people in school. So that's just a goal of mine.
That's awesome. So where are you spending the bulk of your time? So those people that are listening to you, are you just kind of all over the place? Where is central home base, that kind of thing?
So my command center is right here. I'm in Taylor, Michigan, and this is my warehouse/showroom. And then we have 3 offices in New York where my licenses have their offices. So in Manhattan, we have 3 offices, and then I'm here. And then if I'm not in either of those places, I'm overseas sourcing and trying to put together product that we can move.
All right, I got some numbers I got to send your way. I was hoping that you were in the Detroit area. You know, you're doing some great things, Monty. And, you know, when I look at your collection and how effortlessly someone can actually go out and look well, because I'm looking at the 3 mannequins behind you, you make it really easy for people to put pieces together. For those who are challenged, I'm not challenged. When I get ready to do it, trust me, I know how to do it. But there's some brothers, you know, like, does this go with this? Does this, you know, and looking at the forms that you have behind you, it is very easy to see the transitioning from one to the next and how people can make that happen. There's a young lady out there that asked that question, Rebecca Townsend, Garth Townsend. I want to make sure she's got a young son who is an engineer, structural engineer, building buildings all over the place. Yes, Rebecca, please make sure that Jay gets that website. There are a lot of young professionals we're working with that need to be able to dress well and understand that they can hold on to their ethnicity and be brave in the boardroom.
They should also follow us on the social medias at Tayon Collection. Go to Instagram, follow us at Tayon Collection, because you get to see some really cool things. And to your point, Kareem, we actually build out the line kind of like a Garanimals for grown-ups, I call it. You know, and I mean it though. Piece A could go with piece B with piece C, and so on. And when I pitched that idea to Men's Warehouse, they just thought, wow, they couldn't believe it. Because what I told them was this: it will help you solve every the problem that all brick and mortars are having, no matter how big or how small: foot traffic,
Yep.
excitement, making guys excited to come to the store, and then promoting the multiple purchase. You buy a jacket 1 week, you buy the vest 1 week, you buy the pant 1 week. It looks great. Now you come back, you get another pant that ties into that. You build your wardrobe. You're learning how to style. You're learning how to wear it, and it looks good. So
Can you explain that with the mannequins behind you? It might be a good example.
Oh, to show us. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
show
Show
us.
us, my man.
can you see those pretty easily?
Yes, we
we
can see them
can.
great.
Yeah.
Can you?
We see them
Okay, let's
perfectly,
talk
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
If you look, I'll even bring it closer. How about that?
Monty, you sorry, man. Look at you, bro.
How about this? This piece is a light blue or aqua color window pane double-breasted suit with a really cool custom button. If you look at the button, it has the aqua and the brown and the cream in it. You notice there's a cream window pane in it. You notice there's a cream eyelet in the lapel. Can you see that?
Take it back just a little bit further because you yep. Right
So
there.
right here, there's a cream eyelet. So if you see all that and you heard everything I said, now you go to this cream suit. What makes this cream suit special is that it ties into blues, obviously, because I have a blue eyelet here, but I also have subtle characteristics. Top stitch, that same custom button that has cream and blue in it from before.
Right.
Okay. We have details that are more that custom guys typically put on suits. But then take that further.
So real quick, Kareem. I mean, Monty, real quick, if you don't mind, Monty.
Yep.
So you can wear the blue pant though with that cream, so you can get like multiple outfits from just even those two pieces.
There you go. The cream pants goes here. The cream vest goes here, obviously, because I have it there. This vest with this window pane is on the cream suit.
Right.
And so on. The cream pant can go to the first suit I showed you, and so on. And by the way, look at that. Look at that lining.
I
No,
love the
that's nice.
lining.
I love the
The
lining.
lining is amazing.
Yep.
That's nice. You know, Monty, I saw something that you had some women in the fashion show that you did here in Saginaw. Now, I'm going to tell you what I was kind of shocked by. I was like, okay, did he create this? Is that his line? Was that all your line? Because I'll tell you, women of a certain age in well-to-do communities, there's a particular line, St. John. And you had, I think it were some tweeds or some knits or something in there that reminded me of some of their clothing that, is $2,500, $1,500, $3,500 when you go into the stores and you see those collections. I say that because some of the women,
Well,
that's
look
how
at
they
you.
like
You
to
go
dress.
into a St. John's.
I
Do
don't-
they
I don't-
let you
man,
in?
come on,
Do they
come
let
on,
you
man.
in?
You be surprised where I can get into a door every now and then, Mark. But I want to say to the ladies that are listening, because women are the ones who are always purveyor of information, that if that is what your collection, those pieces are inspiring, I think you're going to be doing an amazing job, and I can't wait to really see how excited. If you think men are excited about what you're doing, these women really need to lean into what you have going on, and just be prepared to be surprised and dazzled by what you're putting together.
Well, I can tell you now that the ladies collection is going to have a very similar DNA than the Tayon men's line. So very similar.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a great conversation here. Okay, we got another question here. I told you Rebecca Garth Townsend once again. What are the sizes for the women's clothing? What are you looking at, Mark? Is everybody going to be a supermodel size 2 and 4, or what's going on?
Not at all. We're going to make sure that we address small, petite, short, small, petite, all the way up to very curvaceous. And that will be done intentionally. So don't worry, you'll be able to be satisfied. And then if we don't have something that will work for you or for your body type, I don't have any problem with utilizing our custom capabilities.
No, and I think that it's amazing. I want to say, Mark, this has been cool to meet Monty. I appreciate you bringing him to this conversation. And I think that our community, the more we see these types of things,
It's
young
great
black
success
designer,
story. Worked really hard, super talented, and I'm just really proud to be associated with him.
and this is great because what I recognize is that, Monty, meeting you is kind of a breath of fresh air. I was talking with some individuals a while back, and they were saying, in terms of black designers, there is no, well, Sean John is now a thing again, but he had sold this company out.
It's not his
Now
company
he's
anymore.
back, right? So he buys it back. But there is no really high,
You had
what I
Fubu
would
for a
consider
while.
high end.
Yeah.
Fubu is casual line,
Yeah.
but the space that you're in, designing and creating spaces, for the type of tire that you're in a class by yourself, and it's great to see Black men, do something, I think, other than sportswear, menswear, the lower ends of menswear, and really, tennis shoes and jeans and things of that nature. Man, what is Mary said? Monty is the bomb. It was supposed to be thebomb.com, but we got you, Mary. Thank you for tuning in for this conversation. For those of you who are listening, please like, tag, and share this information. We're going to see if we can do something special with Monty to make sure that the men of this community are able to get down to where he is in Detroit. Monty, thank you very much. Mark, I'm going to give you final words before we sign off.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. And Monty, great seeing you. And fingers crossed on our House of Tayon. So
prayers up. Let's do it. Let's get this thing going. Guys, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much.
Take it easy, my man.